This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to have you here, and I'm looking at the chat room, and it is on fire. I am Erica Lukes, and you are listening to UFO Classified on my new home, KCOR. I have to just say that I feel so blessed to be in this situation and to be on this network, because Tina Marie has been so professional, so helpful, and so supportive of launching my new show here. I'm also always grateful to all of you for following me from place to place, but I'm not going anywhere because this is my new home, and I'm going to expand my audience and really get the message out that there is something phenomenal going on, and we all need to be a part of exploring that. We need to work together, and I am really happy tonight. So happy Friday. Friday is Fantopia, Friday on KCOR. So after my show, you can stick around for Tina Marie on Restricted Airspace. Always a fabulous show. And then on March 18th, the Friday lineup will get even hotter, as Solaris Blue Raven will be hosting a hyperspace at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you've got three ladies rocking it out on Friday night. I'm really excited. Tonight, later in the show, I will be bringing Melinda Leslie on. We're going to be talking about research, the covert program of reverse engineering extraterrestrial abductees, the experiences, evidence, and implications. But first, I want to talk about a case that I have been working on with two people that I respect tremendously, my Assistant State Director, Jeff Cox, who I know is listening tonight. Thanks, Jeff. And also, I have the pleasure of working with William Puckett. And he is, if you don't know anything about William, you should. He has a great website, UFOs Northwest. He is brilliant at analyzing radar data. The case that we are working on here is a case that my friend, Pat, who is the host of Fringe Radio, brought to my attention, and he told me he had overheard a transmission. He's a ham radio operator, overheard this transmission of a commercial pilot who was flying over Utah, asking the approach tower about a large, square, bright orange object. This was enough for me, and I knew that I had to get to work, and so I brought Jeff in, I brought William in. William did a FOIA request with the FAA. We're going to be talking about that in a second, but first, I want to play something we obtained from the FAA, which is the audio transmission. So go ahead, Tina, and play that for us.
You would happen to know what this bright orange square is we're flying over, would you?
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Is it off to your right side?
It's like directly off our nose right now, like right below us. So we've been watching it for a while. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's a perfect square, and it's bright orange. What town are we next to? This town right off our 2 o'clock well.
American 434, that is Nephi, Utah.
Nephi, okay, cool. Now, see what I can find. Thank you.
You bet.
So there it is. That is what started this investigation, and I have a feeling it's only going to get better the more we dig into it. William, thank you for being here tonight, and what have you found out?
Well, thanks for having me, Erica. This case certainly piqued my attention when you first contacted me about it, and, we had to get right on the data, and, I mean, obviously, we didn't know anything for sure. You know, we're taking the word of your friend Pat, who had scanned the, I believe, 127.95 megahertz, which is the frequency, one of the frequencies used by air route traffic control. So, knowing that, and we, of course, both corroborated on looking at the website where a lot of air traffic control recordings are, and then we found the actual case, and we found out it was a different airplane than originally. Originally, we thought it was Delta Airlines. Turned out it was obviously American Airlines, just as was the content on the tape that you just played. So the first thing I wanted to do is verify the path of the aircraft, and I have access to a website called FlightWire, which is actually anybody can get to that site. It verified the airplane and the times and everything, and then got the tail number of the airplane, and then wrote the FOIA request. Say, well, let's take a look and see what the radar data says, and let's see if we have the complete voice tape. And so here about 10 days ago, I got the FOIA response, and as the tape that you just played filled in a few holes, the original tape on the website, there was some missing information, and that was filled in. So, you know, I think we have the entire conversation. I mean, I don't have any suspicion that was redacted, anything was redacted. But when I dumped out the radar data, I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, man, what's going on here? I mean, there's two radar sites, two long-range radar sites, one of them north of Salt Lake City, about 20, 30 miles, and then another one at Cedar City, which is about 155 miles from the actual sighting location, which was near Nephi. And the radar showed a dense bunch of echoes right southwest of Nephi, a couple of miles. And right at the time and at the position radioed by the pilot, the crew, as we just heard on the tape, at a 2 o'clock position, the radar corroborates that. Finding radar concentration, 155 nautical miles from one radar, nearly 90 nautical miles from another radar, tells me that it was picking something up. Those are not birds. Those are not flares. That's not anomalous propagation. Those are real echoes. And then I went back and looked at the entire half-hour radar that I requested, which was essentially from midnight to 12:30 a.m., January 14th, 2016. And there were echoes that entire half hour. So I believe the pilots came up on this. It had been there, and it was still there after they left. So what is it? I don't know. I can tell you what it's not, and I just kind of made some deductions already. Not birds, not weather, not radar angels, not at that range, not anomalous propagation. Certainly indicative of something highly unusual. The area returns was right around Interstate 15, a few of them to the west of Interstate 15, most of them east to the southeast of Interstate 15. Entire grid of echoes, and you know the breadth and width of it. I mean, you're looking at like two nautical miles probably wide and 4 or 5 nautical miles long, and it's difficult to get a track in anything because there were so many returns there. There was like 255 returns in a half-hour period.
Wow.
So, you know, you got reliable observers seeing something unusual, and then you got radar returns out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's going to be pretty hard to explain that. I mean, what could it be? I mean, the only thing that, if it was a flotation device, it'd have to be a huge train of balloons, and they'd have to be pretty big. Hot air balloons, I should say Chinese lanterns, homemade.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Would not be picked up that far away from radar. They wouldn't be visible.
Well, not in that pattern. The pattern was something that was just really bizarre to me.
Well, like I mentioned, it's sort of a grid point pattern. And what I want to do is, I mean, the radar makes a revolution per minute, long range radar. And I'm sorry, correct that, 5 revolutions per minute, 1 revolution every 12 seconds. So we can take a look at the radar maybe at minute intervals for that entire half-hour period, construct a little animation of it and take a look. But my initial feeling is that it's difficult to really get a path on it. I mean, the pilot reported a big square object. For all I know, that's what it was. I mean, the radar is going around, and it's taking a hit and a hit and a hit, every 12 seconds per revolution. It could be a really huge object, but I would think that somebody would have seen it, given that it's along Interstate 15. Of course, January 14th, I believe that, I can't remember, it was Tuesday or Wednesday, in the wintertime, yep. Probably not as much traffic, but I would expect there would be some other witnesses that saw something down there.
Well, and that's what my assistant state director and I are trying to really get the word out in the community. We found different Facebook pages for that area. We've been posting, we're taking flyers down. I have called some of the truck stops along that route. And, the manager I talked to yesterday said, yeah, we see stuff here all the time. My whole family has seen unexplained objects, and that's just kind of a part of what we kind of know is happening, and we just look the other way. And whether that's something that is explainable and they're misidentifying it, or whether it's something really amazing, we don't know, but I think it's incredibly intriguing.
It sure is. And I'm sure when we get this report out to the public, you're going to get many explanations from people, and most of them probably not researched. Although I don't want to be critical, there's some sharp minds out there that probably can get us some pretty good feedback. But I mentioned anomalous propagation, and essentially what that means is if you get a temperature inversion in the atmosphere where the temperature is colder, warms up as you go up in the atmosphere, and then at the point where the temperature starts getting colder, it's kind of like a lens. And that can deflect electromagnetic radiation, and sometimes can cause an abducting effect where the radar wave will go up and down right along the inversion layer. I didn't see that because you would see it propagating out from the radar antenna. There is a slight possibility that with the inversion, a radar wave could have hit the inversion, bounced down and detected ground targets, and then bounced back to the radar. But those targets were not on the freeway. Most of those targets were off the freeway. So, I'm spinning my wheels trying to explain this. Maybe it has a conventional explanation, but I certainly don't have one.
And how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been investigating UFOs, I would say, and more seriously since 1997, starting with a Majestic 12 documents that I got from a gentleman in California that we thought were probably independently leaked from the Jamie Shira documents, that Stanton Friedman ultimately got his hands on. We were never able to prove that definitively, but unfortunately the person analyzing the documents for me lost them. And
oh dear.
And they were never found. But that's when I got my feet wet into the UFO world. With respect to radar data, I've been probably looking at radar data since around the time I bought my website up, which is, for your listeners, www.ufosnw.com. I bought my website up in 2003, and I started doing some radar analyses. Originally, I did some for Peter Davenport, National UFO Reporting Center. Later, I did some more for MUFON, but most of them I've done on my own time. And of course, with NARCAP, with Richard Haynes' group, I've done a number of meteorological and radar analyses for pilot reports. But the pilot reports that they talk about are where the pilot takes evasive action, where it's considered a safety factor, which I don't think that was the case with this particular situation. But that still doesn't dampen the fact that he could have had a quite an authentic UFO sighting. So I've been doing it since 2003, looking at radar information. And I also try to look at weather radar data. You want to look at every bit of data you can get your hands on.
When you have a reputation, I mean, when I think of, when I ask anybody, who should I send this to? Who can help me? They always talk about you because you are so highly respected at doing this. And so I feel grateful to have you on my team looking at this.
Well, it's grateful to be part of the team. It's everyone brings their skills into a group, and the fact that you're going to be, like you've already run that newspaper ad and interviewing more people, the more information you can gather, the better off we are. I have a technical background. I have a master's degree in atmospheric science. I'm a retired meteorologist, and then I worked with the National Weather Service as a weather forecaster prior to that, and then with the Environmental Protection Agency, I was an air pollution meteorologist. But so I had some training in radar, of course, weather radar beforehand, but I just sort of jumped in with both feet on the radar, starting with the MUFON Field Investigators Manual, which does have a chapter on radar, which is written by a number of experts. And MUFON has a number of people that have some pretty good expertise in radar and other scientific avenues. So definitely good to be part of a team and to be respected and to make a contribution.
Well, I think we're going to make a contribution, and no matter what this turns out to be, we've done, I think, a great job at working together and really getting some kind of boots on the ground and analyzing this, because this could turn out to be a really exceptional case. And I'm excited for all of us.
I am too. And as we talked about yesterday, if there's a lot of mining companies down there in the town, I believe you said was around 7,000. If there's any sort of security camera that was pointing in the sky that night, boy, it would be nice to see that footage. And, if that picked up something, and there are a lot of security cameras out there. I mean, I have a complete set of cameras shooting 24 hours a day that are detected by motion, and they shoot good IR information at night. And I don't have time to go through the footage, but that certainly when I get a report, I review the footage. But just on the outside chance that some camera down there picks something up, it would certainly be good to know that. And of course, you wonder about the military. I mean, NORAD shares, I believe the FAA has around 400, give or take a few, long-range radars. Those are shared with NORAD. They're called the Joint, I can't remember, JJS, Joint Surveillance System, yes, JSS. But NORAD would have seen what we were looking at. And out of McCord Air Force Base in Seattle, they look at all the radar scopes, all the radar antennas. They have a team of people. Some of them are weekend warriors, Air National Guard, but they're trained to do that. And they quit scrambling. They instituted several thousand scrambles after 9/11 within the contiguous 48 states, because they were paranoid about, terrorists hijacking airplanes, terrorists, even in a light aircraft, with nefarious intent. But they quit doing that because they would go out and scramble and they wouldn't find anything. And here, I believe 8 or 9 years ago, there's actually an article on my website. I can't reference it off the top of my head, but a local newspaper, it was either the Tacoma Tribune or the Seattle Times, aired a story about that. And they interviewed the colonel that was overseeing the Air National Guard team on the routine monitoring of the radar scopes. And he mentioned that, well, we don't scramble much anymore because we go out there and we don't find anything. The interesting thing about that whole report, there was a picture of him He's got a hat on with a flying saucer on it. He's got a grin on his face. Was there a message there?
Oh, geez. That is hysterical. Oh, Lord. Hey, we've got a question here from Trevor in California, and he wants to know, have we ruled out that it could have been a drone?
Not that many drones.
Right.
I mean, 250 returns. I mean, maybe if you tracked them, maybe 70 objects. Drones would have to be pretty big to be picked up at that range. And as you and I talked about, that's not a military operations area, although Utah does have them, with Dugway Proving Grounds and
right. But I mean, why would that even, with tens of thousands of acres dedicated to test and training facilities and different things, that there would be no need for them to fly over a populated area. I mean, that just, and it's the safety implications.
They're not supposed to be in populated areas. They're supposed to restrict military activities within those operations areas, because I know up here in Montana, there was quite a stink raised when they wanted to expand that operations area in southeastern Montana, and a lot of the flights go out of Ellsworth, which is in Rapid City, and a lot of test flights of B-1 bombers and everything. And so if they were not military drones, I can tell you that. I hate to just stop you. We've got 2 minutes to break, and I want to definitely get you back on the show, and then we can talk for the whole 2 hours, because you've got so much information for all of us. But with regards to this case, I mean, is this one of the best potential cases that you might have seen with regards to radar data? Thus far, considering the credibility of the witnesses, the time, and the quality of the radar data, yes, I have to at this point say it's the best radar visual case I've ever seen in nearly 15 years of looking at radar visuals. And that is amazing. I mean, when you told me that, I just about fell off my chair. I am so grateful to be working with you. So we will do our end here at Utah MUFON, and we'll just keep working together, and I have no doubt that we are going to really, really find some cool things with regards to this. And if nothing else, we're going to expand awareness that there is something really interesting going on here in Utah, and we need to be aware of that. So, William, thank you so much for joining me tonight. We are going to get ready for one final little word. Have your listeners go to my website, because I'm going to be starting to post some of the maps and everything up there as piecemeal as I finish my analysis. So appreciate you having me on the show, and we'll be talking. All right, we will be talking. Have a great night, and then we will be updating you. And so I will post William's website and his updates. I am Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this. Where'd that shot come from? Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tay Publishing, codename Eagle Force, the saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TayPublishing.com.
Join the KCOR Digital Radio Network Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific as we connect the dots and unravel the cosmic mysteries with Divine Paradigm. Divine Paradigm, hosted by Dr. Sasha Lesson and Janet Kira Lesson. Interview those in the know, whether it be researchers, whistleblowers, contactees, or military mind control programs.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Have you ever wanted to learn about ancient texts, suppressed history, spiritual ascendance, as well as past, future, and simultaneous life existences?
This is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make.
Then you need to tune into Divine Paradigm.
Divine Paradigm.
Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
I'm doing it. I can do it. I'm doing it.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Coming March 1st, 2016.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so happy to be here on this wonderful network and have Tina Marie rocking it out with. She's my producer. She's got a great show after mine, Restricted Airspace, and it's a real pleasure to work with an intelligent, strong, passionate woman. And speaking of passionate and intelligent women, my guest right now is somebody that I've actually followed and kept tabs on for a long, long time. I think she is brilliant and dedicated and very, very courageous with regards to really getting everything out about abductions, about the military involvement. Melinda Leslie she does really cool tours in Sedona, Arizona, and I'm going to go on one, but she is researching extraterrestrial abduction, MILAB experiences. She's been doing this for 26 years. She's currently writing a book detailing her research. Her research and her very own personal experiences have been featured in 19 books by all the prominent authors in ufology. Melinda has lectured for numerous organizations. In fact, you can go to YouTube and watch some of her presentations that are phenomenal. She spoke at the International UFO Congress. She has spoken for MUFON chapters, the X Conference, the Bay Area UFO Expo, UFO Con, everything that's cool, pretty much. You've heard her, I'm sure, on Coast to Coast AM and has appeared on television shows. She is a researcher and an investigator. And Melinda, I have to say, I am really seriously coming to Sedona. So prepare yourself.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that promise.
You're going to be in trouble because with our night vision goggles, I don't even know what sort of mothership we're going to be beaming in.
I have to apologize to your audience for the way I sound tonight. going around town here, and I'm hearing it from people who live in places other than here, which is Sedona, that there's this really bad kind of flu virus thing going around, and I end up every couple of years I get bronchitis. Well, the flu virus hit me and it turned into bronchitis. So, and I'm sucking on halls and drinking cold drinks, but I apologize for how my voice sounds. It's definitely 10 octaves lower than normal.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what though? I am so sorry. If you do sound like you just need to, you're going to have to go to bed after this and take care of yourself. Or I'll come down there and be a
I've
nurse
just
mate.
spent like 3 days in bed and I'm tired of it. So
you're ready to get the night vision goggles out and go to town.
But I can assure everyone I sound worse than I feel. I actually don't feel that bad right now. So
okay, good. Well, you still have your fabulous laugh that I love so much. Every time I hear it, it makes me happy. So I'm really excited to have you on my maiden voyage, my first show.
Yes, I'm so honored. Thank you for having me on and to be your first guest on your new show. I'm very honored and excited.
I know. I can't wait. And I think everything that you do is so important. And I think sometimes, well, a lot of times in ufology, I'm always surprised at how skeptical ufologists are, especially with regards to abductions and all of these things. What is your take on that? Does that frustrate you?
Yes.
Tell us how you feel.
Sorry. Try not to cough right into the mic. But yeah, it's very frustrating. It's kind of a twofold thing with the research that I do too, because it's one thing if they are skeptical of someone being an abductee, and that's one thing. And so there's the overall view towards extraterrestrial abduction. Well, then you add to it this covert human involvement that happens with many of the abductees, and then it just adds that layer of skepticism, and it's really crazy. I mean, I feel like I've been out here, doing this research for 25 years and pounding my head against the wall.
Yeah.
Trying to get ufology to kind of sit up and pay attention, because my research, I feel too, and I won't even say my research. I'll say the fact that abductees are having this covert human involvement is to me is some of the absolute strongest evidence for the fact that they are real alien abductees. It is because they're having very real experiences with extraterrestrials that there is any human interest, covert human, in the form of covert military and intelligence community involvement, is because they're having those real experiences. So to me, it ends up kind of being some of the absolute best evidence in support of it.
And I agree, and I think it's so funny because I remember reading Communion and I was 18 years old, and I think everybody that ever read Communion, that was a moment to remember in time. And for me, I've always been so fascinated by that, and I've always known that was happening. And to get involved with really the mainstream ufology movement and seeing some of these skeptical attitudes, I can understand it, because we want to rationalize everything. This is, you talk about maybe seeing a UFO over there, but then you have this up close personal invading your space. It's really terrifying, and maybe that's just too much for people to handle.
Sure, I understand, and I understand exactly what you're saying is probably the case. But I think with anything in this field, it's very important for the field to stay very evidence-based. And I understand that anyone can say, well, I'm having an abduction. Okay, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But there's so much evidence in support of abductions happening, and there's so many strong evidence cases that I try to keep my research very focused on that evidence, and have it be very evidence-based. granted, it's important to get into some of the implications and larger considerations and kind of spiritual metaphysical parts of it, sure. But I think it's really important to constantly go back to, well, what's the evidence? And what's the evidence for any given case, whether it be abduction or anything else in all of ufology? What is the evidence for it? And then what is the overall evidence for some of the particular aspects? I mean, I think there's incredible evidence for there being a cover-up and policy of non-disclosure. There's incredible evidence for sightings. There's incredible evidence for landing trace cases. There's incredible evidence for military monitoring of those things. And thus there's incredible evidence for alien abduction and incredible evidence for, again, specific cases within that. And also it's also, I think, important for ufology to remember abductions are something on a very personal level for people. It
Right.
is still very traumatic. Living with it is very difficult. It's very isolating. People have lost careers and families and etc. Over this, and relationships, and so it's something that's very traumatic to live with, let alone to experience. And I'm not making any claims that all the experiences are bad or good. I think it's a mix. I think a lot of times it's how someone reacts to their experience.
Yes.
So that's why you can have like a mass abduction and 2 people, 3, 4, 5 involved in the same experience may kind of have a different perception on whether they felt that experience was good, bad, or indifferent, and yet they were in the same experience. But I think it's still traumatic to live with. It's, again, the way it's isolating. There's that constant fear of ridicule, constant fear of what if other people find out. It's, just today I was pondering this about being, I was watching something on TV, completely unrelated, but it was with someone who had the courage to stand up for their convictions and their beliefs and be willing to take all sorts of flack for having had done that on a totally unrelated subject. But it made me reflect on this and go, you know what? It matters that much to me. And so to be an abductee who's gone public in the field is being willing to stand up and say, this has happened and here's the evidence, and to speak for all those others that maybe aren't able to.
And I think that's so important. And I have to say, out of all the people that are really involved in ufology, it's people like you and Kathleen Martin, and Yvonne Smith that are really, that have the, for lack of a better word, the cojones to stand up and say this is happening, because it's, I look at some of the people involved in my life, and even talking about UFOs, you just get this blank stare and you think, really? But yet you believe in some of these other things that have never been proven, and at some point in time, I feel as somebody involved in this that we need to kind of shift the paradigm a little bit and perhaps phrase it in a different way and quit putting ourselves into groups of I'm a believer and then there's the skeptic. Well, I don't need to believe in anything because this is a fact. So let's move on with it.
Yes, yeah, but it's I think it starts with something you just addressed there, and it again with this other thing I was watching on TV today that was inspirational for that reason is not being apologetic, and yes, kind of like you were just saying, like, can we just get on with it? But not being apologetic and saying, here's what it is, present the information, and present the evidence, and those that are ready for it and those that are following will follow, and others will fall to the side. Of course, we're all hoping for that, elusive disclosure someday that suddenly makes it okay for all of us to talk about this. But a friend of mine, a research associate, Randy Kopang, is writing a book on the fact that that very disclosure process is already happening. It's a limited, slow leaking of information deliberately, and I think, and again, I think at this point it's, how am I trying to say it? Stick to the facts, and again, not to be apologetic anymore, because it's starting to be where the people who aren't paying attention to this start to look silly, and so we don't have to constantly fear like what are people going to think. I think disclosure starts with each person saying this is happening and this is my experience, starting first with their family members, and then their friends, and then their coworkers, and then the general public, and just sticking to it as if you were describing, how you went to lunch the day before, or went to the park, or,
Right.
So I think it's really important for people to not be apologetic, to talk about it in very matter of fact of terms, and again, start with everyone around you and being willing to speak up amongst those people. I was getting a phone call. Is there any problem with the? Are we having any technical problem?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Nope. You are awesome.
Well, I realized my cell phone's not right near me, so I don't know who was trying to just reach me. But
oh dear.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't you guys.
No. It's somebody who wants to go out with their night vision goggles. Either that or bring you like some cough medicine. You poor thing. You are a trooper. I love it.
Oh, sure. Well, like I said, I don't feel that bad. It sounds worse, but I keep sucking on halls and I'm drinking some ice water.
Well, that's good. I'm so glad. I think that it is, I think when people are abducted or they have these experiences, like you were saying, they're so isolated, and then you have such a different perspective on things. It's incredibly difficult to come out and talk about these things. And even for somebody that is, like I was saying, just had a UFO sighting, it's hard to talk about. But I think for those of us who are in the public forum, if we can all, which I think you are, and I think a lot of people are, just kind of stick together and empower these people. That's the great thing. You've been so empowering to people that have experienced this trauma.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, again, I'm stepping into even in a more difficult area with that, the military and covert intelligence involvement. And it's just because, again, it's like so many of those people it just compounds all those things we were talking about the isolation and the fear of ridicule and you were saying, to the degree that in the field, in ufology, that there's skepticism towards these subjects. And I even find that the people with these covert involvement experiences, which should, as I said before, it should be perceived as some of the best evidence in support of abduction. Instead, you get the people with these experiences afraid to even tell the researchers. I mean, I have cases that have done, for instance, had a major abduction researcher involved in their case, maybe someone who does regressive hypnosis. And yet these people with these covert experiences are afraid to even share it with those individuals. And so the abductees with these covert experiences feel even more isolated in ufology.
And that's just so sad to me because, and I think, when I'm investigating cases and I have to interact with, since I'm on the experiencer research team for MUFON,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am always just astounded at the level of vulnerability, at the level of courage for people to even come forward and talk about this. And sometimes I just really get angry, as I'm sure you do, because you've been dealing with this a lot longer, at the people that are quote unquote in ufology and are researching this and are still so naughty about the abduction phenomenon.
Sure. I mean, I can say, it's come a long ways from even certainly 40 years ago in the field, but even 20 years ago, it's come a long ways, and we owe some really brave people in the field for excuse me, some brave people in the field for bringing the information forward and bringing it forward in a credible way. Of course, it's easy to start mentioning a bunch of names, everything from the late Dr. John Mack to Bud Hopkins.
You are so lucky you got to meet John Mack. I and Bud Hopkins. I mean, both of those people, I just, again, I remember reading Bud Hopkins' book Intruders back when I was reading Communion and that whole thing. And then John Mack and you, God, how brave, how brilliant. And there is a great, for those of you who don't know much about them, and you should go to YouTube and watch the video where they are interviewed, both of them together. And it's very just impressive and incredible. I'm thrilled that you got to have the experience with them. And I have Beth in Florida wanted me to ask you before we get ready to go to break, why do you feel that so many high-profile UFO researchers dismiss anyone who's claimed to have an experience? And I've heard that to be the case. I've heard about people that have these experiences just say, well, I approached so-and-so and he blew me off. What gives with that, I wonder?
Well, I mean, I'm not so sure that's happening to that degree of them being blown off. I think everyone in this field, in the whole UFO field, is such a specialist that people are looking at their own little piece they're trying to uncover or figure out. And so a lot of times they may blow off someone with abduction experiences or contact because that's not their focus. They don't have the time and energy to look into that. And as far as specifically the abduction researchers, they're going to focus on the cases that come to them. And unfortunately, we're still in abduction research when you're someone who's a hypnotherapist or even just a researcher. It's still about triage. It's still about stopping the bleeding. You're getting abductees that are trying to figure out what's happening to them. Is it happening? How do they live their life with it? And so you're still in that, all your clients are like in a state of emergency. And so it's really hard to move beyond that because, unless you have a case that you work with over the years and you've done many regressions with that particular case over the years. And so it starts to develop a deeper understanding. And so I think when people say, well, they get blown off, well, are you going to someone who even has an interest in the abduction subject? And if not, and they're a researcher of another subject, yeah, they're going to blow you off because they don't have the time and energy,
I love that. I mean, I really, honestly, to me, that is the best thing that I've heard because it's so true. And I think sometimes people don't necessarily realize that a lot of people that are involved in researching this, I mean, you have a lot of engineers, a lot of really science-oriented minds, and they have a different way of communicating and dealing with people. And it's not necessarily the warm and fuzzy thing. And so I think
you're absolutely right. I'm sitting here laughing because that's so true. I mean, they're not, the people who are the therapists hopefully have some psychology training, somewhere along the way. And so they're a little better with it. But you're right. A lot of the tech head guides, and like you said, the engineering types, and, they could come off as unfeeling or not, well, yeah, I was going to say disinterested. Well, they are disinterested only in that that's not their specialty, that's not their area of focus.
I know, it's so funny. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're getting ready to go to break, and then you can go get, just get some lemon water. We are going to be right back, and I'm Erica Lukes. You're listening to UFO Classified. See you on the other side.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows, please visit the UFO Classified show page at kcorradio.com. UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified. This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everybody. I am so happy to be here on my maiden voyage. I'm happy that you're here and supporting UFO Classified on KCOR. Up after my show is the fantastic Tina Marie with Restricted Airspace. She rocks it. I just love being on a network with a strong woman who is leading the charge. It's incredible. My guest tonight is Melinda Leslie, and if you have to know about her. I mean, come on, seriously. She's been doing this for 27 years. She is courageous, and I love having all these great women to be role models for me. If you are ever in the Sedona area, you need to go to her UFO sightings tours.com. You can find her on the internet and do a tour. I'm going to come down there and make a little surprise trip to Sedona, and we're going to go out and see if we can conjure up some red orbs. What do you think, Melinda?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to taking you. I look forward to taking anybody that wants to come on a UFO sighting tour. It's really a blast, and we have sightings every time. You know, I just completed tour number 545.
Wow.
Yeah, 545 tours, and only once did my clients feel they didn't have a sighting. All the other 544 tours, my clients always thought they had sightings. And I try to educate everybody on all like the known things, like, you know, planes and helicopters and shooting stars, and of course all about satellites. So we know when we're seeing those things, and when we can rule out those things, we're left with the real unknowns, and or unidentifieds, as the case may be, and it's so much fun. And you know, I heard you mention just then, you know, about seeing the amber lights, and obviously, as you well know, that's such on the increase in reporting in ufology. So I started to really, probably at least a year, maybe 2 years ago on my tour, start to really take note of the fact that we were seeing an increase in the amber or orange colored lights as well.
Isn't that interesting? You know, we have so many sightings of those here, and that just, I guess, having personal experiences for me and seeing them right over, right in the flight path for the international airport, that's what propelled me into wanting to learn more and educate the public. And speaking of that, my Assistant State Director, Jeff Cox, is on the phone. Hey, Jeff, what's happening? You know what? I am just always happy that you are involved with Utah MUFON and that we're kicking some butt here. And I know we've been working on this big case and we need Melinda's wisdom as far as how to approach people. You know, when you go to these small towns and you're trying to find out information, sometimes if you mention the word UFO, it's a taboo and people kind of shut you out. Melinda, what's your advice for both of us when we're conducting investigations and we're trying to get information out of people that are a little bit nervous about the UFO subject?
Well, I think approach it honestly and openly, and not be afraid of it yourself. You have to demystify it in your attitude and approach. I so appreciate when someone like you, Erica, who presents yourself. That's the word I'm looking for. Present yourself in such a business-like manner. I think that's so important in this field as ufologists to dress and look professional, to use intelligent vocabulary, and again, to demystify it. So when you approach people, most people I found, like on my tours as an example, when you're just open and upfront about it, people open up. And they open up and they share their personal experiences and if they've had prior sightings. And so and I find that too when working with my MILAB, which is of course military abduction cases, is just to be very upfront and open about it. And when people are given that sense that, oh, this is a safe environment to talk, and then they open up. So your attitude and how you present yourself will provide them that safe space that they'll then open up and share.
Well, Jeff just had a really interesting experience. And Jeff, I should talk for you, but tell Melinda, just kind of where you're coming from.
Well, I called down to Nephi to get hold of the newspaper, Nephi Times down there. And when I spoke to the gentleman, I explained I was from MUFON, who I was, and what it stood for, without really getting into too much information that there's been a lot of action in the sky down there, and that I'd like to set up a article or one little block notice saying this is who you can get hold of. Left him a website address, also my phone number, and it was just like, oh, well, that'll cost you this much money. It was very cold. And I think your words are a good sign of wisdom there, Melinda, and that is, I think on something like that, you almost have to be face-to-face with these people instead of speaking on the phone. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, I think you're really right about that. That it takes people seeing you and seeing that you're a down-to-earth, credible person, and having kind of an interpersonal reaction or relationship with them, interaction, for them to then feel that comfort level.
And I'll keep that in the back of my head because I don't think I want another phone call like that again.
Yeah.
Well, it's also different because you're dealing with a smaller town, and sometimes there are lots of things that happen. It's like up by Skinwalker Ranch, they have these experiences, but they don't feel comfortable talking about it, and they don't want any attention in that area because they just want to go about their own things. So we're going to figure this out together, Jeff. And I know that we will be down there. We'll do some great investigations, and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for calling.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
we'll
thank
talk
you
to you
for your
soon.
question.
So Melinda, you talk about what you are doing now and the research that you're doing and what you're finding.
Oh my goodness.
I know. There are like 5 questions for you. So
yeah. Well, that takes some doing. Well, I'm still, besides doing my UFO tours, And so that's kind of my full-time gig, my, bread and butter, income job. And I love doing it. And I love providing the experience to people. But I've been very involved in UFO research and investigation for about 27 years now. And about 25 of those has been very much into not only the abduction subject, but like I said, that covert involvement. And it started with, first I was self-exploring my own alien abduction experiences. And then that became where over time I realized I was having these other experiences and started to kind of self-investigate what these other things were, and met other abductees with those experiences and researchers in the field who were looking into it. People like Kay Wilson and, of course, Dr. Carla Turner come to mind, and others. But I give them so much credit for kind of being my inspiration to, and Leah Haley early on, and others. So it was everything from the people with the experiences to the researchers with these cases, to start to try to figure out, first off, what was happening to me, and then what was happening with other people. And it's just kind of snowballed. And I'm now, I admit, I'm like 25 years behind the ball on, what I should have been getting a book out a long time ago. I'm finally back working on one, but I'm so busy, doing UFOs full time. It's like I don't have time to sit and write, and I need to create the time. And hey, if anyone out there who's writing books in the field wants to give me some pointers on how to create the time and how to balance it, hey, I'm all ears, because it's really tough. And I can't imagine how anyone in this field lives their life and gets their books done too. It must just mean they shut out everything for a period of time, which is what I'm going to have to do, and it's almost impossible. But the book will emphasize, again, as I said, that evidence for it, what is happening to the abductees with the covert involvement, why it's happening, not only the experiences people are having, but the evidence for those experiences. And I think, again, it's such strong evidence for not only abductions being absolutely real, but so real and so important that somewhere along the way they actually became a matter of national security. And it stands to reason. I mean, you go to what's currently being said in abduction research right now with such a heavy emphasis on the hybrids, and that just seems to be kind of, it's been there all along, but it's a current discussion in abduction research to be really getting into the whole hybrid, and that the fact that there's this taking of eggs or ovum from women and sperm from men, and the production of these hybrid beings that are now more abductees feel that they are meeting their hybrid children in daily life situations. And so that suggests a certain percentage of these hybrids anyways are being brought here to live amongst us and everything. But that is such a current discussion going on, and if you think about it, if that in fact is really happening, which, okay, obviously it is, or you and I'd be a big proponent of that's exactly what's happening, right? Then of course those who manage in the intelligence information on this planet and manage the crash retrievals and the reverse engineering of technology and manage the whole ET subject in a covert human intelligence capacity are going to be just as interested in what is that and why is that happening, because that's a huge matter of national security. Yeah. Aliens coming here, living amongst us and interbreeding with us is a huge matter of national security. So that's why they have an interest in the abductees, and what specifically they're looking into with the abductees. So I hope. Now, don't get me laughing. I'll start coughing again.
But it's so cute, though. I love your laugh.
But I'm hoping that in my book, I will address all those points, for instance, that I just made, and many more.
So when somebody is, I think that for me, I've had some really interesting paranormal experiences and different UFO sightings, different things. And you start to, I know that I've gone back and looked at different points in my life, and I journal, and then you sit there and you kind of put things together, and little bits of the puzzle come into play. At what point in time do you find that most abductees begin to realize that they're having an experience, and this has been a lifelong thing?
Let me ask you if you mean, first off, when do they realize they're having an alien abduction experiences, or when they're having the covert involvement?
All of the above.
Oh, okay.
Because I know for me, I still wonder if that's what's happened. I suspect that something like that has happened, but I don't know. It's such a strange thing.
Well, the alien abduction stuff, often it's a period of missing time still is one of the classic indicators. That you've had, a period of time that you can't account for, where suddenly it seems to be the old term that Bud Hopkins used to call it was seamless missing time. And often there's what are called marker memories, which are just these little snippets of memory that seem to have imprinted, like a classic alien face image, an instrument, a medical procedure performed on you. Obviously, if you've had a very close contact, a sighting experience with a very close sighting or landed craft, that's highly suggestive. If you've had a landed craft sighting and had missing time, pretty good indicator you've had something happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people need to look at the evidence in their own life as it starts to mount up for suggesting that there's been an alien abduction. Certainly, if a loved one of yours has witnessed something going on with you as well, that adds to it. And it may start to surface in dreams, but then again, if you have sightings, that can bring up alien imagery dreams. I mean, alien imagery is out there in popular culture,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be influenced by that. So you have to then separate out. Not every dream is an experience, but if you had the dream and you woke up the next day with a new scar on your body, as an example, or a set of bruises that look like a handprint. If you take a black light and you have the marks coming up under black light, so there's certain things that you start to go, well, wait a second, okay, it's not just dreams. I've had these other physical reactions, or if you, for instance, were doing something where you were fully conscious and had missing time, as in like driving a car, and you're driving somewhere and then you have the missing time. So these are the kinds of things that start to make you go, okay, there's multiple indicators starting to add up
Mm-hmm.
that there's an alien abduction. That, again, it could be that there were some memories coming up in dreams as well, but you go into these other physical indicators, things that's happening to your body or to your environment, and obviously if someone else near you witnessed you gone or witnessed an alien in the environment or something like that. So these are the kind of things that start to add up. That would then make you go, okay, maybe there's something there. And then, of course, the way to get at that, you could work for a while on your own to try to recover memory, and many people do. But you can also get regressive hypnosis by a trained hypnotherapist. I recommend going to someone who's worked with a number of abductees. So not someone brand new at it. You kind of want someone who knows what they're doing, and to do some regressive hypnosis to help you get to those memories. If you start to have multiple indicators adding up, suggesting something is there, well, then get regressed to kind of know once and for all,
Right.
And then once you've started to get regressions, you start to get in memories, it really helps to get into a support network of some kind, a support group, a discussion group, somewhere where you're with other people so you won't feel isolated and alone, and there's other people you can talk to. Now, that's kind of with the alien abduction stuff. The military involvement is kind of the same deal, but it often starts off with low-grade, for instance, harassment and surveillance, black helicopter activity, being followed, watched, having your home under surveillance, maybe having your email tampered with, or your Facebook tampered with, or something. Again, if you kind of have that computer tampering, hacking kind of stuff go on, like I said, being watched, being followed, having strange phone calls, or what sounds like someone picking up on a line when you're on the phone with someone. Again, some of these things could have other explanations, but it's when they start to add up together. It starts to suggest there might be more going on. And then if you remember an experience where you saw military personnel present, for instance, you might have bits and pieces of memory of an alien abduction, but suddenly there's a memory also of seeing military personnel or people in lab coats, that kind of thing. If you get regressed over it and you remember a very human environment, you might have an experience with ETs, but there may be human light fixtures and human hallways and windows and doors with handles on them and things that would suggest a very human environment. So these kinds of things will start to add up to make you go, okay, I've had these other experiences that seem to go beyond just ET involvement and steps into the realm of human involvement. And it may also start in some recall of dreams. But another thing is, again, those pieces of physical evidence of marks on your body afterwards, other environmental effects, and these kinds of things. So those are the things that would start to make you go, okay, I've also had this human involvement. And you asked me something during the break, and I won't get into this too deeply because I didn't want to necessarily call you out live on the air. But you said something about maybe having a handler kind of situation.
Yes.
Another abductee called that minders, when you feel like you're being minded by certain people that might have like an intelligence background or high-level science, aerospace engineering backgrounds. Of course, these kinds of folks are ripe in ufology, but if you feel that someone of that ilk, of that kind of background or insider kind of knowledge is paying extra attention on you and your case, asking you about your experiences, or showing up in your life kind of uninvited, as the case may be, as opposed to you reaching out and, contacting a researcher. But if someone is contacting you and shows an interest, but that tends to be down the line. It tends to be someone is already having the harassment, surveillance, and the re-abduction, as opposed to just being abducted by ETs, where they're actually then picked up by humans, or have ETs and humans in an experience together. Usually those things are happening first before you have a befriended by an insider kind of thing. But not always. I mean, again, if like yourself, you're so involved in ufology that it would be kind of hard to separate, well, where is this because I might be having abductions, and when is this happening in relationship to that, versus why is it just happening because I'm a public figure in the field,
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It's just so fascinating because I think anybody who's been in this field, and I can only imagine how it is if you've been in this field for decades, but you do have your stuff hacked. I mean, you've got, it's very interesting, covert manipulation in this way. And it's fascinating, and I've heard this from everybody in the field. I mean, it's
sure. Well, that's just it. It's not just the abductees; it's everyone. There is an interest, and it's because what we're doing is real and important, and it is a matter of national security. That is why that they have this interest, and they monitor the researchers in the field, and that's not to make anyone paranoid or anything. It's just underground base researcher Richard Sauter
In fact, I've got to just stop you really quick because we're getting ready to take a break, and we'll talk about Richard Soddard after. But I mean, this is so true. We are being monitored, and I know it sounded so paranoid when I got into this field, but it's not. It's happening. It's kind of a daily
take it
life.
As confirmation, you're doing the right thing. You're absolutely correct, and you're making a difference.
Amen.
So
I love it.
Take it as a badge of this. I'm kicking ass. That's why they're interested.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
3 guys, no ties. The pizza sales in Colorado have gone up. Now,
Some people do that Bronco special.
Yeah, some people.
You got the munchies.
Some people think it's because of Peyton Manning, because they're trying to support.
Is that why? I think it's because of other things. The pizza has gone up.
3 guys, no ties. Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
We interrupt to bring you this.
Would you like to advertise on KCOR Digital Radio Network?
This is what I'm talking about.
At a fraction of the cost of traditional radio advertising, why not?
Tell them the good news.
Whether you need to promote your next book, product, or service, we can customize a package for just about any budget.
Finally, there is hope for the hopeless.
Why limit yourself to a tiny local market when KCOR can brand you to the world?
Here's all you do.
Visit KCORradio.com or contact our sales department by email at saleskcorradio.com.
We want it now!
See the difference with us by letting us work for you.
This ain't reality TV!
The KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we take the KCOR Digital Radio Network off the grid and go deep inside the Paranormal Vault. Jump on the elevator and come take the ride down the rabbit hole of reality with BK Mojave and the Watcher as they unlock the vault and dust off some of their classified paranormal case files even the government doesn't know about. The Paranormal Vault, Mondays at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. This is the one show our secret government fears will speak the truth.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about, at least not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Well, welcome back, everyone. What a great maiden voyage. I appreciate all of you listening. I am Erica Lukes, and this is KCOR, and it is Fantopia Friday. So stick around in a half an hour, or actually a little bit longer than that. Tina Marie is going to be on with restricted airspace. And I want to tell you that next week I have got another woman in the field. I totally love it. Paula Harris is going to be joining me, and I will be speaking at the Starworks Symposium in November. So if you can get down to that, it's going to be a great event. I actually get to go out and do a sky watch and a meditation with Stephen Greer. So this will be very cool. I will report back to you on that. I hear it is fantastic. Melinda Leslie has been with me tonight. And Melinda, we always talk about these cool things on the break.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't even know what to say. Where are you going? What is the biggest passion for you right now? Because you have so many areas of interest.
Oh, goodness. Well, definitely, getting the research out there, trying to work on the book again, getting back to that, and of course my tours, which I just love doing, and providing the opportunity for people to have sightings themselves. We addressed a couple times on this show about how do you approach people, how do you get the word to people, how do you make this more acceptable and everything, and there's nothing like allowing for someone to have their own sighting, because it's a cliche, but it's so true that seeing is believing. You can study this subject. I have a lot of people. I just had a guy come 2 nights ago on my tour, who come with his wife and another couple and everything, and they were saying, well, he's like this armchair researcher, and he's interested, and he's been following it and listens to the shows and goes to all the conferences. He had never had a sighting. And I'm like, wow, really? And well, now he has, but providing that experience to people, because it's a whole new paradigm once you have seen them for yourself, and so providing that experience for people, I don't want to just keep harping on it, but you were asking what am I passionate about? Well, that, and I love watching people's paradigms change. When I take out those individuals who've never seen something or who are skeptical. I have a group of friends or family come together, and they'll always, quite often someone will drag someone along who really doesn't want to go, but rather than, sit by themselves in their hotel room that night, they'll go, oh, okay. And I love when those people see something, because you see that paradigm change. You see them just go, oh my God, I had no idea, And so I love providing that experience and watching that and seeing those reactions from people and hearing the feedback from people later. It's like it almost becomes like each night I need to take people out, so I hear that from them later, and I hear their responses and their reactions. It's like I need my fix every night.
Wow, but that is so powerful. For you to be able to change people in such a profound way, and that is. To me, having that experience was one of the most, if not the most, profound thing I've ever experienced. Yeah. And I just want to share that with everybody. So I feel you. And I like I said, I'm excited to come down there and get my night vision on. But why do you think, we've got a great question from Lori, and she's down in Arizona. Why do you think Sedona is such a hotbed of activity?
Oh, well, a couple of things. The leading theory as to why Sedona is such a hot spot for UFO sightings. It always has been. But the leading theory is because of our vortexes. We have these vortices, these increased electromagnetic fields. It just so happens that if you kind of look throughout UFO history and sighting history at the places on the planet that over epochs of time, historically and into the ancient past, were areas known for a lot of sightings and contact interaction. It's always been these places of power on the planet, these places with these, what might be these large beacons of electromagnetic energy. And it just so happens that, again, those places that historically, over epochs of time, have always been areas with a lot of UFO activity are these, as I said, are these places of power on the planet. So I believe that's why Sedona is. It's one of those places of power on the planet, and that is why it's known for being, historically even, such a UFO hotspot. There's kind of two schools of thought about that. One is the craft might be getting some kind of energy or something from it. Okay, maybe. But the other is that they might be like large navigation beacons. And I feel that these places of power all over the planet, these places where the most amount of ley lines or energy lines on the world energy grid, cross, are these places, again, there's always hot spots in certain areas and sighting waves, and there can be a sighting wave that goes on for a couple days, weeks, months, years. But I'm talking about places for hundreds of years or more, known as these UFO hotspots. So again, they're these places of power, and I believe that it's probably like navigation beacons, that the craft are entering Earth's atmosphere and coming in where these places of power are on the planet, and then possibly redirecting where they need to go from there. And that would explain why these various places of power, such as Sedona, but other places on the planet as well, are areas that are known for such frequent activity.
Right, and Skinwalker Ranch comes to mind. The Uinta Basin comes to mind. The Marley Woods, down in Australia, the Min Min Lights. There's so many interesting places. And over in Hessdalen, when you look at
you think like the crop circles with Stonehenge and all the various ancient stone circles and the ley line connections to that area of the world. You think of like Machu Picchu and South America and the amount of sightings there historically. And exactly. So I'm just agreeing with everything you just said.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because we have such a beautiful Native American culture here, and I've been learning so much with regards to the Uinta Basin and the Utes and Navajo. I feel like the indigenous people have so much knowledge and so much respect for this, and that is something that they know. I mean,
most of their cultures, their cultural heritage belief is that they are descendants of the Star People.
And that is, it's just fascinating to me to see how much wisdom they have, but yet how readily we dismiss what they have to say. And I think I hopefully will get a clue.
Yes.
At some point in time, because there's so much to learn and so much respect. And I even, like with regards to Skinwalker Ranch and that whole area, when you listen to the lore, the oral traditions, stories passed on about skinwalkers, people now they just think, okay, well, that's a funny ghost story. We're going to go up there, ha ha ha, and poke around with this. But it is very real. It's frightening in this case, and there are things that need to be respected and really understood before you go messing around with them.
Oh, sure. And, and again, there are these areas that are known for heightened amounts of paranormal activity, heightened amounts of UFO-related activity. And a lot of times, as you just said, the ancient cultures in that area are well aware. And so, I think there is something to be learned and respected from that.
It's fascinating. What speaking of the paranormal, we always, I think in ufology, I know that it's very hard for some people to admit or want to talk about the connections there, but there is a big connection, and we don't know where the line, where the line from paranormal to the UFO experience begins or ends. How do you feel about that?
Well, sure. I mean, even with abductees, there's kind of a running joke, the chicken or the egg question with abductees, which came first, the psychic or the abductee? Was it, are you psychic as a byproduct of your abductions, or did it have something to do with why you were chosen in the first place? And I think most abductees and certainly researchers in it would probably say it's a little bit of both. We do know abductions runs in families, obviously, and that there's a genetic lineage possibly being followed or maintained. And but it's also, there's evidence to suggest that psychic and paranormal abilities runs in families. Years ago, when I had a monthly lecture series, I had a gentleman who came and spoke about what he called paranormal fallout. Many people who've had UFO sightings or contacts or abductions or anything start to have a lot of other paranormal stuff happen in their life. And it could be just that having that unusual experience has like opened up something in your mind that's allowed for these other things to also exist. Or it could be that there's some energy signature or something from having a UFO event that draws to it other paranormal things as well. But it's very common for someone who's had a lot of UFO-related events to also have a lot of paranormal events as well.
And that's so interesting. I mean, I've always been fascinated with both subjects, paranormal and then the UFO aspect of things. And I think you're right. Once you have something clicks in your mind, and I think you just are open to these other realities, these other things that are going on, the not so black and white world. And it's fascinating and beautiful and a little bit frightening at times. But I think that we need to, at some point in time, not be afraid to say that we don't have a clue. And I think that if we're in ufology, we need to maybe perhaps be brave enough to say there is a connection instead of trying to differentiate the two, because we know nothing about either one of them.
Well, yeah. And yet there's tremendous amounts of research in various paranormal fields,
right?
Just like there is, research in the UFO fields. And it's definitely the two have always gone hand in hand. I think someone is on risky ground if they try to separate the two, because everything is energy, and I think life is a paranormal experience. Everything is the paranormal. So to separate it out as something else, you risk missing some of the data, And in doing UFO research investigation, you have to consider all the data.
And that's exactly right. And I think when we know nothing about either, I think that this is just such a new thing that we really need to be open-minded. Not so much that our brains are falling out, but we need to understand that when we're dealing with all of these unknowns, we have to have a bit of, we have to think outside the box. And it's cool for me. I can't believe it. I feel like the more I learn, the more I just sit there with my mouth hanging open.
Well, like we mentioned earlier in the show about being true to your convictions and state your mind and be very frank and open with your own experiences. I think that's part of, in ufology too, there's this caution to say, well, if we're addressing the paranormal too, somehow we discredit the subject or something. And that's further from the truth, because again, it's part of the data, and it must be looked at scientifically along with the other data. And so it's about being frank and open, and saying, well, what is the data showing? What is the evidence showing? And when you are, it forces you to include that as well, and not exclude it. One thing, I've been involved just kind of as a consultant to the organization FREE, F-R-E-E, which is the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. And they're doing, just like MUFON is, they're doing these extensive abduction research surveys, polling abductees on lists of questions. But one thing that Free came up with that kind of surprised them was the amount of people who've had abduction and contact experiences are also having near-death experiences.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah. And I mean, to where the numbers are huge. It's a huge percentage. And so, but again, is it because that unusual experience has opened you up and expanded your mind to being open to having such an experience? Or is it somehow more connected? We don't know all those answers, but it's there in the data, and it has to be reconciled. It has to be included. And I think, and even people who have sightings often report a certain amount of paranormal experience with that. They feel that often they have a psychic connection to what's happening. They often feel they had an awareness beforehand to go out and have the sighting, this kind of thing. So I just think it's so much a part of it. It constantly has to be considered and taken in with the totality of the data.
Absolutely. And there are so many extremes, I think, in ufology. You've got all these different factions, and I just wanted to ask you how you feel about, like, say, the contact movement, Stephen Greer, things like that. I mean, do you think that we should be trying to do this? I know that you do that on your UFO tours, but is it something that we need to be cautious about, or how would we approach that?
Well, I think when anybody approaches anything paranormal, of which having a contact experience is, as we just described.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hang on, sorry.
Oh,
my voice is hanging there pretty good.
I know, you've been so awesome.
But it is you always use a certain amount of protection and discernment, and to go into any kind of paranormal event without protecting yourself, whether that be there's a lot of different techniques, of course, prayer, positive thinking, affirmations, this kind of stuff, and more. But that's just the basics, and pulling upon your pre-existing belief system, whatever you feel empowers you to feel protected, and also discernment, to pay attention to what's going on. Don't just accept everything, and if anything ever feels wrong or bad or out of place, then stop what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with anything. So it certainly goes to that experience as well. But if you go in there with good intentions and positive thoughts and positive intentions, and again keeping the protection and the discernment in place, I think you're only bound to have a very positive experience.
And that's wonderful. And I think I hear so many people that are doing these the CE5 protocols that are having wonderful experiences. And I think that we do need to be smart and guarded and understand that when we get into and delve into any of these topics, this is heavy and this is real. And I think it can affect you in more ways than we even have the rationality to understand.
Sure.
So, but it's
well,
also,
and I want to let people know on my UFO sighting tour, I don't do any of those things. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't use protection discernment, but I'm not doing any C5 initiative, call things down or anything. I don't make any claims to be able to do that. It's literally that Sedona is such a hot spot for sightings. There's sightings here all the time. We use the military night vision goggles that increase the amount of light you're seeing by 50,000 times. And we just see what's there. So there's no, there's no hocus pocus or anything going on to our having sightings. It's here. We're using night vision and we're just seeing it. Although I always tell people, occasionally, if people come on the tour And if they want to lead the group in something like that, as long as the rest of the group is open to it, I say, sure, go ahead, and I have had people do that. I have to admit, though, it's not when we've done any of those things that we've had an increase in sightings. We just always have a lot of sightings. And, but at the same time, if someone ever wants to try something or lead the group, as long as the rest of the group is open and likes the idea, then I'm willing to try it. But otherwise, we're just always seeing what's there. And I think to me, that's kind of the point, is it's always there. There are craft under intelligent control that are highly, advanced technology in our skies all the time.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, if you just get out of yourself and quit looking forward and quit thinking about all of these day-to-day chores that we're involved with, and you just spend 5 minutes and look up, you're going to see some amazing things. And I just am shocked. And once you open your mind and you get out there, and you also have to, like you were saying, you have to rule out all the possibilities, but it's there, it will happen. And I feel grateful that I've had all the experiences I've had, and I'm very excited to come down and hang out with you in Sedona. In fact, I've been telling my husband I need a vacation, so Sedona's it.
Oh, Sedona's it's beautiful. Just coming here and getting out on the trails. We have these, beautiful day hike trails out here that are, the scenery is stunning. And just getting out there and experiencing that, getting into the vortexes, the increased electromagnetic fields that will realign your electromagnetic field and can help produce states of increased consciousness or psychic abilities or healing states. Just to be here in nature, it's just such a beautiful place. And of course, if anyone, comes, you want to come out and see UFOs. I mean, that's what it's all about on my tour. You want to see them? We'll go out and see them. I actually, we have sightings so frequently. I mean, I never dreamt in a million years we'd see them every time. That I actually do a money-back guarantee that people will see them or they get their money back.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. And Melinda, thank you for being here tonight. You can go to UFOsightingtours.com. You can also find Melinda Leslie on YouTube. Her lectures are brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. And I will update all of my listeners on your book progress and your tours and all of that great stuff that you're doing. Thank you for being here. And I have to
sure.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I will be talking to you. I'm going to call you, but
oh yeah, I'd love to take you out and show you around Sedona and not to mention go out with the goggles, of course, because that would just be too much fun.
Oh, we will.
Thank you so much for having me on your show and your maiden voyage here.
Thank you so
much. With the new show, I'm really honored, and it was really fun. And anytime you want to have me, the answer is yes.
Okay, well, I will be getting you back. So everyone out there, thank you so much for being here. I'm very thrilled to be working with Tina Marie and being a part of the KCOR family. Next week, I will be back at the same time. My guest will be Paula Harris, and I have got my next 2 months booked with the most amazing people, and Melinda just kicked it off. I'm grateful to be here. Find me on Facebook at UFO Classified. Spread the word. I want to keep doing this because this is the most important thing I will ever do in my life, and I want to share with you everything I'm finding. I'll keep you updated on my case that I'm working on with William Puckett and Jeff Cox. This should be good. Please, whatever you do, just look up. Pay attention to your surroundings. Something fantastic is happening, and I hope you all can be as amazed as I have been with my journey, because it's just the coolest thing ever. I am Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. Be safe and stick around for restricted airspace. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you next Friday.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there.
just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows, please visit the UFO Classified show page at kcorradio.com. UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.